Oh, dang, how do you get it to look so real?
Patience, lots of patience.
Welcome back to the channel. I'm with my good friend Cody Aljets, and we got some texturing to do. You do a lot of metal work and art stuff. I mean, your work is absolutely fantastic. It's freaking cherry, bro.
Yeah, I do a lot of different texturing, a lot of different build-up with welds, a lot of things that you typically wouldn't do with a MIG welder.
Right, so sometimes it's ugly and you're trying to do it on purpose.
100%.
So this was like one of the first things I seen sitting on your work table.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of do this to save my hands. I do a lot of different textures, and when you start going repetitive long-term, you gotta worry about the hands and things like that. So I just added a little guide onto that to where I can kind of drive it where I want it to. I do adjust pressures depending on what I'm doing, the air pressure. A lot of time I'll run it like 60, sometimes I'll kick up to 100, but you can just slice right through if you're using some material.
Super quick, way better than just sitting there with a hammer and trying to get all that stuff in there too.
I did a Longhorn last year, and the way I kind of figure out my textures, I do small little test pieces like this. And I ended up making this little nut, and I have a couple different radiuses on it, and I literally just tap, 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 and run that and get that texture.
For like your feathers, you'd place your feather in there like that.
100%, yep.
And then you'd get in there with this air hammer?
No, I do that with a little hammer.
Okay, I'd say this seems like a little overkill.
Different materials, different processes.
So air hammer for little lines, little quick lines, and deep veins.
You know, and you can get different textures. I do examples. I try it different ways, and then once I like the way I want, then one gets tossed aside and one becomes the final product. My skulls and like my headdress and all that, like the Native American skull.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's all made with like really simple tools here in the shop. A couple basic hammers, a sandbag, and a scrap of oak that I got.
These are just all different radiuses for different projects, right?
Yeah, I just honestly took a hole saw bit and drilled down in there, and then I just took a grinder and swoop them out, and over time they kind of form themselves. This is a piece of oak, so it's a little harder than the last piece I had. It was a pine. But this is really good for like smoothing and finishing after you get done with your block.
Now compared to that to a sandbag.
So the sandbag, I come in and I rough everything out. I rough and shrink and get my curves and everything. And then I come in here and like refine those textures so it's not wonky and that. For me, I can run these edges and just kind of smooth out that texture as much as I want, but you can see I try to keep a lot of the handmade texture, you know.
For either whether you're trying to get like a fast bend or refining it, you have all these hammers for different reasons.
They're just body hammers. They're a cheap body hammer kit. And then the same, just some teardrop mallets. This is made more than anything I've ever made in this shop. Like it does most of the work. And then I wanted one a little more refined, so I actually just grabbed the same $12 hammer and ground it down to a point.
This is a lot of what you do. What happens if you get in like a pinch? You need this vise a lot?
Yeah, I use a vise. I'm getting into tighter spaces where I can't swing the hammer. So right now I'm buying stuff at like yard sales. Why not use something that's super old and been around for 100 years? You know it's gonna last.
And then you just take your material and you tippity tap tap away.
Tippity tap.
So other than that, you said you got this anvil for like 150 bucks.
I'll make that deal. How about you, Udovich? You make that deal?
I'd make that deal.
I don't blame you. Damn good deal.
Where'd you get that?
I'm always looking at like shops that are shutting down. I go to real estate sales or like estate sales. I don't do typical blacksmithing, and I do a lot of my stuff cold, which is tough on these guys. So I didn't need anything that was pristine, and honestly I've learned to use these edges, and I do a lot of stuff on the horn there and in here to get some of my tight stuff. And then even a simple thing is like a ball that I picked out of the scrap, an old bearing or something, and rebar and a piece of pipe. Now I've got a different radius that I can hammer on there for eye sockets. Beyond that, you know, just the basic stuff that other guys have. A couple jigs with, you know, rebar. I really like this one for a little bit bigger pattern for what I did on the nut. That's actually where I got my initial idea to, but I didn't want to like ruin a really nice tool somebody made. I just kind of make up what I need, use what I got, and it works.
Heck yeah. Now we've got the Rebel 205 AC/DC plugged in, turned on. It's turned down to around 45 amp. We got the TIG welding going on, the argon's on. We're gonna go around this eye socket, and I like to just go around on some of the stuff that I've done. I know that you're like the skull guru, but I've done a couple where I've really liked to use silicon bronze as an accent, and you said that's been kind of holding you back because you'd want to be able to do more TIG. Now we've got this Rebel in here. We'll go up this kind of side here and up and around, really kind of putting a decent bead, feathering amperage like I showed you in that other video where we're just kind of hammering down, because once that silicon bronze is hot, it falls. And we'll just kind of pulse it all the way up that seam and then kind of put some globs and just make a mess, but we'll be able to move them around still with that pedal technique.
Yeah, I want to see that. I was stoked to see your copper guy and skulls that you were doing, and that's why we started communicating.
Heck yeah.
You know, so
I stole your idea how to do your horns. I was like, I need to figure out how to make some big old horns.
it's all good. I'm gonna steal some of your technique.
Let's do it.
Doesn't take much heat to make it flat.
No, we're at 45 amps and we're like barely on that foot pedal. Like, you can see that little bit of light get kind of bright.
Yep.
And I'm not even going all the way down with it. Now this is a little bit more methodical because I'm trying to make it like go perfect up that seam. You have to anticipate that edge.
Yeah, I saw you pull off of it. I could see it starting to run.
Yeah, I saw it wanted to run,
back.
so we pulled back. So now we're gonna really ball things up.
Yeah, I want to see that bone texture.
We really don't want it to sink in. It's gonna sink in really easy. We can come back around, but we want to just get a lot of extra metal. Ow! I zapped myself. So I'm barely on it and I'm shoving wire.
Yeah.
Trying to stay away from that edge because that edge will run away.
It looks like you're higher up on your arc a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to make a little bit more room for the wire. I really don't want to puddle up a whole lot of anything. If something I see like runs, I can end up moving it, you know. I just put a little bit of heat one place or the other. I could kind of like, if I wanted to drop that in right there, or drop that in right there, even without wire, just flatten a spot or make it run somewhere.
What I do with my MIG wires, I usually come around, get a little enough material to build that edge up, and then that's when I come back like you're doing and just give it a little extra texture, make it not look so perfect. Yeah, see, even that runaway, it works. It makes that eye socket look old.
Yeah, that's what I like around that edge. A little bit of meat and a little bit of that runaway. And then you can, again, we can come back without any wire, but all that stuff is kind of globbed up. We can just kind of blend it in with the torch a little bit.
The globby looks good though. Makes it look natural, yeah. I like that.
You're always gonna want to put more than you need. And let's give it a quick wire wheel because it's already gonna look good. So it starts off that crummy kind of gray look, but it doesn't take a lot to get that really nice bronze back. And you can still even manipulate this more with some heat, but just gives a really beautiful contrast.
I think I see another bison in the future with bronze.
Oh, he's gonna have just a bronze tough. What is this thing? The old MIG Master 215 Pro.
This dinosaur has been what's made all of my art so far. I've not used any other machines.
Doing some MIG now, I'll do some texturing with the old squirt gun.
Yeah, show you how I do some of the fur and some of those other textures beyond like hammers and things like that.
Do you know they make silicon bronze MIG wire too?
I'm interested.
And you can just do all this sweet stuff. I'm interested, I know it's all imperfections, but how do you hide what is to a welder an imperfection and make it look like something beautiful?
It just took some time, right? Like I had to accept that I was kind of doing it wrong. I lay my wire out a little bit longer and let it arc and try to run to it and just work with layers. I'll run an arc and let that build up, and as soon as it starts to drip, I stop, and then as soon as it's red, I hit it again. You know?
We call that hanging dog nuts.
It's just a trial and error, you know.
But there's still like a method to the madness, right? Everything still has a direction of growth. You still have to be conscious of, you're trying to recreate a realistic animal.
You know, if I'm looking at the top of the mane, I have a bison hide. I've seen a lot of bison, you know, they have a part. I try to add a little bit of that extra tough in the top and really look at a lot of different pictures and references to just try to match it.
To be a good artist, it's always in the detail, the patience and the attention to detail that sets you different than others because you took the time to do that.
I think I'm willing to take a couple more hits on a hammer and mess up a little more time than some of the other people, and I've learned a ton from it, and it's amazing what you can do when you start messing up.
I can do that same work, at least get the bulk of it started by just letting one side cool and working one side and just...
Here's the problem with going that fast on art. You got to clean up all that spatter. That's why I pulse it, because if I haul out, then I kill myself on more time later coming back and like, the speed is great, but then you chase spatter.
Thanks for watching this episode again, guys. I hope this does help shed some light on some of the cool techniques that you don't need a bunch of fancy tools. You don't need to be a good welder to get art. You just need to just have an open mind. Where can they find your stuff, Cody?
CodyAljitsArt.com. It's Cody with a IE at the end, and same at CodyAljitsArt, and I'm on all the platforms. Feel free to ask me any questions. I'm an open book. I definitely communicate with a lot of people in the back. I'll send you pictures if you want of some of the tools. I'm willing to help anybody.